guys, we're talking about the fiber wool, and I just want to let you know a couple places that wool can come from. Obviously it comes from sheep and everything, but it can come from llama, alpaca, and it can come from bunnies, like the really fluffy bunnies and everything. It comes from them, and it doesn't harm the animals, which is a really good thing about wool, because like we were talking about the silk and everything like that, you actually have to kill the insect, but with wool you don't, because it regrows and everything. Alright.
4 steps in the process of getting the wool is, the first one is you shear it, which you take the wool directly off the animal, which is just like shaving them, and then you sort it by the quality and I guess what animal it came from. Then you can either make it into yarn or you can make it into felt and fabric.
Alright. And then some advantages of it is that it keeps you warm. It doesn't wrinkle, like our shirts always wrinkle and we have to iron them, but it doesn't wrinkle at all. It absorbs sweat, so like underneath it, the wool, like literally, the wool sweaters will like absorb the sweat off of you. It's stain proof for the most part. I mean, I'm not gonna try it at all because I'm pretty sure if you rolled around in mud, it'd probably get a little dirty. But pretty much for the most part, it's stain proof, and it lasts for years, and it's like semi-flame proof. So an example of non-flammable stuff is if you take paper, you light it on fire, boom, gone. Well, with the wool and everything like that, if you lit this on fire and it was like underneath the flame, it would keep burning, but once you took it away from the flame, it would have like a little singe mark because it would stop burning.
Some of the disadvantages are, depending on the quality, it can be really itchy, and also for if your skin is really sensitive to animal hair, it can really irritate your skin. When it gets wet, it gets really heavy because it can absorb a lot of water. You can only dry clean it because if you put it through the dryer, it'll shrink. And depending on the quality of it and what kind you get, it can be really expensive.
Alright. And some of the characteristics are like the structure holds shape, so like the fibers itself doesn't bend. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. So silk, is that a good example? Like if you bend it, like it has like a crink or something.
I think it might.
Like like with some materials you have. If you have a crinkle, like it stays crinkled, and like that's a bend pretty much. Well, with wool, it's not really a bend. Like it goes back to shape. And it's resistant to tearing. I mean, if you pull one of the threads like out, it can unwind. But like you can't pull it apart like you can with some fabrics.
For the absorbency, it can absorb up to 30% of its weight, and that's what makes it so heavy.
Alright, and so now we're going to talk about abrasion resistance. So we have an example from the book, just to explain to you. Okay, so you see like single yarn is right there where it's just that one strand, and that's when it's the weakest because it's just that one thread. 2-ply is when it's like combined, so you see the purple and green is combined, so it gives it a harder, or not harder, like a stronger resistance to tearing and the abrasion test where you're rubbing it. 2-ply yarn is that, which is like 2 single threads. Am I still good on it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which is like 2 of them combined, and then cable is where you're combining all 4 of those together, which is like the strongest it can be. And then the shape retention is that, hang on. Okay, it can be stretched 50% when it's wet, so like you can pull it and everything, and it'll still bounce back to shape when it's wet. And then when it's dry, it can only stretch up to 30%, which I mean that's understandable because it's dry. But it'll still come back. But if you stretch it anymore, it'll probably lose some of its shape and form.
The tensile strength, weaker wools are combined to make felts, or can be combined with other fabrics to become stronger, and then the stronger fibers are used on their own.
And then our very last thing, just to reiterate on the flammability and everything like that. I mean, I already went over it, but just once again saying that wool is like a good thing because with some things, if you light a sleeve on fire, it's gone and it ends up burning you. But with the wool and everything like that, it'll stop once it's off of the flame. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So bye guys.